Hello and welcome, everyone. Now, if you haven't been in the know recently, you might not be aware of the fact that the new regulation for Pokemon was just revealed Regulation I. We've been theorizing for a while on what the rule set could be for Regulation I, since Scarlet and Violet has always been on a single restricted format, and Regulation G has been our restricted format for a while. We moved on to Regulation H for a short amount of time, which was when we had no legendaries whatsoever, but now we're moving into the World season, and especially NAIC, which is just around the corner. So, double restricted is going to be huge. It's going to be such a mix-up compared to the restricted Pokemon we have right now. This is the first double restricted format where we have Miraidon, Koraidon, Terapagos, things like supportive Pokemon like Ogerpon. We haven't technically had a Worlds that will be double restricted since, I believe, Sun and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon in around like 2017, 2018-ish. I wasn't playing VGC back then, so I don't quite know how things panned out, but I do know that it was a very interesting format with how they had the Z moves and the the Tapus, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, especially they were really big. But we don't have the Tapus here right now, thankfully, because I don't want to deal with electric terrain on two different Pokemon that are like complete opposites, Electric Fairy and Electric Dragon. And I don't want to deal with misty terrain. Tapu Fini, you scare me. But anyway, that's not the topic of today's video. I thought we'd discuss how Regulation I is going to affect all of the current restricted Pokemon that we have in this format. For some reason, this tier list has Terastallized Terapagos, but I'm going to ignore that. Because ultimately, the double restricted format does allow for a lot more creativity when it comes to team building. We've seen, like, Groudon and Kyogre, they've fallen off a little bit in the single restricted, but back during the X and Y era, the ORAS era, especially when they had the primal forms, they were absolute menaces. And I think when they get paired with another Pokemon, they can really bring some hurt. So, let's get on into things. I mean, why not? First up is Mewtwo. Mewtwo fucking sucks. Bottom text. Mewtwo is just the biggest victim of power creep. If you're a very casual Pokemon player, you'll know Mewtwo as the best Pokemon of Generation 1. However, that was 29 years ago. Wow, you are old! What the hell happened, man? I'm kidding. But yeah, Mewtwo, it was the best Pokemon in Generation 1, mostly because that was before the physical special split. But ever since anything, really. Ever since we started getting good Pokemon in like Generation 3, Mewtwo has completely fallen off. It has been given recently a signature move in Psystrike, which is a special psychic 100 base power, 100 accuracy move, but it deals physical damage, which means that the damage will be based off of your special attack stat, but your opponent's defense stat, since a lot of Pokemon like to spec more into their special bulk, because you can make up for a lack of physical bulk with Intimidate Pokemon. There is no special attacking equivalent of Intimidate. Yet. Wait until you see Mega Incineroar, everyone! Just around the corner! But ultimately, Mewtwo it has... poor Mewtwo. It has Psychic typing, which has fallen off as time has gone on. It doesn't do too well in Psychic terrain either. It has insanely good coverage, but even the coverage can't save it from mediocrity. It's just a shame because even though Mewtwo was a part of a lot of people's childhood, Mewtwo is not going to do very well in single restricted or double restricted. It can't really bring out any special techs with people. I just don't see it doing anything. And speaking of things that I don't see doing anything, Lugia. There are some Lugia believers out there. I think they're coping, because every Lugia set is like Calm Mind, Weakness Policy, Terra Ghost, and you just have to keep it supported with floral healing and keep it alive at all costs, and it doesn't work. Give it up. You have to set screens up and Calm Mind and Terra Ghost Curse or something. There's no Pokemon that's going to be able to bring out a strong side of Lugia. Lugia is just another victim of power creep, first off, and it also wasn't very good to begin with. Psychic Flying is not very good typing. It doesn't pair well with any of the stronger legendaries, really, and I don't see a future for it, unfortunately. But here's the thing. Ho-Oh. I think Ho-Oh is gonna have a really, really good time. Honestly, I might change up this tier real quick. I'm gonna call this Solid Improvement. Because I don't want that to just be good Pokemon. I want it to represent that, like, this is, slightly better than before. This is worse than before. This is Solid Improvement. This is, like, that's a lot better. And this is just the standard. You know who this is. Let's get this out the way, actually. You know who this is. I'll get to these later. I'll get to them. But the Ho-Oh, as a fire flying type, it doesn't do well as a single restricted because it's not very good at dealing with its multiple weaknesses, water damage, rock damage, electric coming from, like, Miraidon, because you've got Ogerpon Cornerstone running around, you've got Airshifter everywhere. When you go into a rain team, you lose, but you actually usually want to run Ho-Oh on a rain team, because Ho-Oh, as often, I think Moltres especially. Moltres used to see a lot of usage on rain teams paired with Kyogre, but Ho-Oh can basically fill that spot, and it has a superior ability in Regenerator, which means you can switch it out and it gets 33% of its HP back, which is really good for a Pokemon that could just get dominated by a water move out of nowhere, especially with Airshifter running around. You'd probably have to spec it to save, to survive even at Surging Strikes, but that would be quite hard. I do think that Ho-Oh, with its typing as well, it could get Stab Hurricane, which is huge, generally, because Hurricane never misses in the rain. You can, or Terra Water Terra Blast if you want to be an absolutely insane person. Sacred Fire, even when it's in the rain, it can still have a high chance to burn, which is incredible against physical attackers. So Ho-Oh can see use on rain teams, but it could also see use on sun teams, because it's a fire flying type, and you don't often get flying damage in general in these types of in restricted formats. That's what I'm trying to say. You normally only really get flying damage coming from Tornadus, and sometimes, the odd Pelipper, the odd Thundurus if someone's insane. But Ho-Oh having consistent fire damage and supportive moves like Tailwind and flying damage coming from Hurricane or any type of physical move, any type of flying move even, Ho-Oh is going to be in a much, much better spot. I put it in Solid Improvement. I don't quite think it's one of the biggest winners because Ho-Oh does still have some fundamental flaws of its design. It still isn't the most bulky thing. It's the fastest thing. It'll probably be outsped by a couple Tailwind users, but I still think it's definitely going to have an advantage. Kyogre's an interesting one, because a bit of a problem with Kyogre in single restricted formats is that you have to kind of commit your team to being a rain team. So you usually see it with Archaludon, maybe with Walking Wake if you want to use it against a sun team, because Walking Wake benefits from both. Tornadus, Urshifu, Rillaboom. That's just like a general spread for something. And that's good, but you really like back yourself into a corner with one archetype, when generally if you use two restrictors, you have two amazing forms of damage, and it's much, much easier to give yourself two modes, so you can try and win with your rain mode, and then switch to maybe a hyper offense mode with you just lead like Calyrex Shadow and Kyogre. Imagine you have like Choice Scarf, Calyrex Shadow, and then a leftovers Kyogre for like a slower set versus a faster set. You could go absolutely insane. It's a lot of special damage, and you can definitely be countered by a lot of stuff. There are some drawbacks to Kyogre being in a double restricted format, such as the Weather Wars will definitely come back. We have currently the only restricted that can set rain is Kyogre, whereas the current restricteds that can set sun are both Groudon and Koraidon. Groudon will be... I'll just talk about them both together. Groudon is in the same boat as Koraidon. It's going to be better, but it's going to have to fight to keep its weather up. The good thing about Groudon is that it doesn't really benefit from its weather, which is really funny. It's a ground type. Its main moves are ground type, unless you're running Fire Punch or Heat Crash. You're not really going to be caring about the weather being up. You can still do your stab damage. Koraidon is the same, because Koraidon is a fighting type. Like, yeah, it uses a lot of fire moves and use Terra Fire in general, but you have close combat at all times. But generally, the Weather Wars coming back is going to be a little annoying, but it is going to give rise to... ultimately, both of these Pokemon are counted by Rillaboom, because Rillaboom is very, very, very strong and very, very, very common. So both are going to have to learn to deal with that even more these days, because they're going to be brought a lot more, which is going to be really funny. I can't wait. You'll probably learn some, like, counters to them. I mean, obviously, Kyogre gets Ice Beam, Groudon gets Ice Punch. They have coverage moves to help them. There's probably going to be one insane person out there running Terra Ice, Ice Punch, and calc it exactly to Oko or Rillaboom, which, power to you. Go off, King. You'll get day 2 someday, I promise. I can't say anything, I've never made day 2. Rayquaza. Ooh, Rayquaza is an interesting one, because ultimately what Rayquaza adds to a general format is... It is a dragon type. It's dragon flying type, first off. So it's quad weak to ice, which is really bad because this bitch. But Rayquaza has Terra Normal Extreme Speed from a decently high physical attack stat. It's pretty... Excuse me. It's not extremely bulky, but it does also have its signature move Dragon Ascent, which is a strong move that you can use to take something out. It's not as strong as other signature moves, but may as well have it, right? And yeah, Rayquaza did see a lot of usage in Double Restricted back in around the ORAS days, but that was when we had Mega Rayquaza, which we also had in Gen 7. That was when, in ORAS days, that was when Wolfglick won with its Sword Dance set, when he used Mega Rayquaza. And he predicted the Protect, so he Sword Dance, I believe. That was his winning play. Rayquaza has gotten a lot worse since then because its base form is just not that strong, but I do think that it being able to pair itself with a lot stronger Pokemon, playing a bit more supportive, playing for the priority move, so it's basically just doing immediate damage while another Pokemon sets up, I think it will be better than before. I don't think it's going to be any worse, I don't think it's going to stay quite as bad, I think it's going to take advantage of some parts. Now here's the thing. Funny edit goes here. So here's the thing. Dialga and Palkia have not seen any usage for a while. But Double Restricted gives us rise to Calyrex Ice not needing to set up its own Trick Room. And it doesn't even need a support Pokemon to set up its own Trick Room. It can get a Pokemon like Dialga or Palkia to do it for it. And that is going to go insane. I'm going to check real quick. Let me just load up Pokemon Showdown. I just want to check the base stats of the different Dialga and Palkia forms. Regulation I. Palkia. Okay, so we have Palkia base form, which has more attack. And then Palkia Origin, which has more speed. Palkia Origin is faster? Why? If we check Dialga, it is... If we check Dialga, then Dialga's origin form is bulkier, but it's both the same base 90 speed. Considering that you often want to use Dialga in a Trick Room setting, I think, and it has telepathy as well if you want to use spread moves like Earthquake. Actually, does Calyrex isolate Earthquake? I'm gonna Google this. Let me just check Showdown. Sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of detours here, but these are important conversations, I promise you. Because if Calyrex Ice lends Earthquake, this will be really funny. A lot of Pokemon is just about trying to be funny, in my opinion. It does not. Okay. Calyrex Ice does not learn Earthquake. I don't know what spread moves it learns that goes on other Pokemon too. But I would say that Dialga and Palkia are definitely going to be. Dialga definitely is going to be an improvement. I'd honestly argue putting it in solid improvement because I think both work in a Trick Room setting. This is the bulkier form. This is the bulkier form, this is the more offensive form. I wouldn't put it in biggest winners because ultimately they're both going to be support Pokemon for a Trick Room set. Maybe a Tail Room set if you bring like Tornadus or something as well. But they'll be run with, the likes of Ursaluna Blood Moon, with Calyrex Ice especially, because Calyrex Ice is probably the best Trick Room sweeper. Maybe something like King Gambit as well in the back. Just general really good Trick Room Pokemon. It could run with Psychic terrain. No, I thought for a second, does it learn Expanding Force? I'm not even Googling that. Palkia, on the other hand, I think isn't going to have as much of an improvement. Palkia does have the advantage of having really good typing. I mean, well, you could argue that both Pokemon have really good typing, but with Landorus being everywhere, a lot of fighting types in Urshifu, I don't really think Steel is a good type to have right now, just because of how hard it's countered by 3 very common offensive types. Even if Fire is negated by the Dragon weakness, you're still opening yourself up to 2 really prevalent weaknesses. You do have a lot of resistances, though. It is a good typing for resistances. Water Dragon, however, makes it so your only weaknesses are Ice. Not Ice, actually. It's Fairy and Dragon. Those are your only 2 weaknesses. And when you're putting that on a rain team, because you'll often be pairing a water type with rain to do more damage, and Palkia can kind of work in a slow set, he can work in a fast set, he does decent damage, he has great coverage. It's not going to be the most offensive Pokemon when you're next to Kyogre, of all things, but it's definitely going to have something. I feel like I'm going to put Palkia Origin Form in better than before, but then Palkia itself in solid improvement, because I think that's the more offensive set. So it's going to be better in general at doing damage, and it can be better at helping a Calm Mind Kyogre set or something, or a Archaludon set up stamina, or its own Electroshot special attack boosts, because that's what you want from a rain team. Giratina, I'm sorry, I can't take this seriously. Giratina sucks, man. Both forms of Giratina are terrible. One is bulkier, I think. One is more offensive. They have Levitate vs Pressure, but neither are really good abilities. You don't want either of those. They don't really provide any type of significant assistance. You can have like Curse, probably Helping Hand if you really want to. I don't think Giratina lands Trick Room, but I will check. Regi, that's BSS Regi. BGC Regi. Giratina. Okay, so both are base 90. Does it land Trick Room? It doesn't land Trick Room. Pressure, it gets Telepathy, I guess. What? Calm Mind. Thunderwave. It gets Will-O-Wisp. Okay. Will I reluctantly put it 1-up? It has Icy Wind. Okay, I will reluctantly put the bulkier... Wait, does it only get Levitate? Yeah, you do only get Levitating the form. And it's the more offensive form as well. Yeah, this one is slightly better. I'm going to put it in better than before because it gets Thunderwave, it gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Icy Wind. I think it will be a better support Pokemon, but it will not see much use. Same with Rayquaza, really. Reshiram and Zekrom. Okay, forgive me. I'm very, very unfamiliar with Reshiram and Zekrom. I've not seen them in play because the only play they really got was back in Gen 5 competitive as far as I know. So I'm going to just check real quick to see what type of support moves they get. So obviously they have their own Blue Flare and then, what is it, Bolt something? Or something Bolt? Fusion Bolt, yeah. Oh no, they're actually two... Fuse after Fusion. That's a completely different move, never mind. Bolt Strike, that's it. Yeah, I was right. So they have Blue Flare and Bolt Strike, which are both 130 base power, 85 accuracy moves, which are strong, but very, very unfortunate if you miss. Try not to miss. They have a 150 base special attack and attack stats, which is also good. But the damage they deal is such common typings that I really don't think it's worth it. I think you can make an argument for Reshiram, simply because Reshiram has the more unique typing. It has Fire Dragon, and there are no... Are there no? Yeah, I believe there are no other restricted Fire Dragon types, except maybe... Oh yeah, there's no other restricted Fire Dragon types. So, I think Reshiram has... does it learn Will-O-Wisp? It learns Will-O-Wisp. Okay. It learns Will-O-Wisp. You can put it, I don't know, Terra Fire next to Groudon in the sun. Give it Will-O-Wisp. Give it something else to store. It could get Dragon Tail, Helping Hand, Heat Wave if one hit both. Scorching Sands for coverage. Shadow Ball. It gets Tailwind for some reason. Why does it get Tailwind? How fast are you? Base 90. That's not even that bad. You know what? Fuck it. Reshiram goes in solid improvement. Why does it have Tailwind? You could run like Will-O-Wisp, Tailwind, and then like Focus Sash. Focus Sash, you could go like Terra Fire. Does it get Draco as well? It gets Draco. Why is Reshiram not that bad in a double restricted format? I've never seen Reshiram used. But I think this could genuinely do really well next to Groudon. That would be so funny. Zekrom, on the other hand, do you also get Tailwind? You do. Why do either of these Pokemon get Tailwind? Okay, solely because of that, I think I do have to put Zekrom in better than before, but it's not. It's not good. It gets Thunder Wave, it gets Bolt Strike Draco. It's not the same. It's not gonna work the same. It's Electric Dragon, so you can just run Miraidon, and you're never going to run it with Miraidon. Honestly, just because of Miraidon, I think I can't actually put it any higher than the bottom tier. I'm sorry to all you Zekrom fans out there. I am one too. I have a shiny Zekrom. But I cannot. Kyurem forms. Yay. Are these legal? They're all legal, right? Alright. We got Kyurem Black, which is... All three of these are Dragon Eyes. Oh yeah, if you notice, Kyurem, Calyrex, Cosmog, and Cosmoem are not here because they are incomplete forms. However, these are not because they're cool, I guess. No, they do have actual... These have good stats. They have actual legitimate stats with them, but we'll get there. So, Kyurem Black first. Kyurem Black has a 170 base attack stat. I'm very unfamiliar with these, I'm sorry. I think Kyurem Black does struggle a lot more than Kyurem White, because with Kyurem Black, you want your... I mean, your main ice moves are like... Icicle Spear. People basically just called this like, yeah, this is just worse Baxcalibur or better Baxcalibur, but it doesn't have that good of an ability. Because that's the moves that affect abilities, but it's not very... The ability to... Sorry, ignore other abilities. But that's not very good. The moves it gets are not very high power, and just because it's a physical ice dragon attacker, it gets the short end of the stick in general. I really think that it's just don't run it. It's not good. I think Giratina Origin Form is probably worse than all of them, though. Like, I can see the argument for some of these, but don't run this. Kyurem White, however, this is the funny one. Because this is the, you know, Choice Specs, Terra Ice, Blizzard, Inhale, next to Ninetales Alola setting up the Hail. And that's just all you do. You just spam that. And that's pretty based. I would put it in better than before, but barely anything has changed about how you use this Pokemon because that is still its unironic best strategy. I mean, let's see what support moves it learns. It learns Endeavor. Why would you ever want to run that? It learns Helping Hand. Again, why would you want to run that on your restricted Pokemon? Icy Wind. I mean, it can use it, and it'll be better than before because it can use it supportively. It gets Weather Ball if you want to use it with a different weather Pokemon for God knows whatever reason, but just don't. it just use it. Choice specs, Terra Ice, Blizzard, because it's funny. Zacian. So this is the normalization, and the normalization isn't quite as viable as normal Zamazenta, because the reason you run normal Zamazenta is to give it an item that can boost its defense. But it's much rarer to find an item that boosts Zacian's attack stat. I don't think there really is any, because the seeds don't do that. The seeds are what you normally use for Zamazenta. You can use a focus sash on Zacian and use it on like a sword stand set, and I think it will generally be better than before, but I don't think it's going to be very good. Honestly, it's probably going to go like... I think this goes here. It's probably going to go like maybe there. But yeah, I think you don't... If you're gonna run Zacian, just run Zacian. Just run this. It's gonna be better. I don't know if it'll be in biggest winners, but it's definitely gonna be in a solid improvement. Probably somewhere around there. I think it won't be as much of an improvement as Ho-Oh, just because it's a huge, huge improvement for Ho-Oh. I mean, it's gonna be a huge improvement for Reshiram, apparently, which I just found out because it lends Tailwind for some reason. Zacian is a really good Pokemon, though, and you'll be able to use a Swords Dance set on it more often because it won't be the prime target of attacks right now. I think you can definitely make the argument. People are already trying to run it with Regidrago, and you could run it in like a hyper offense way while having your own, maybe like a Tailwind or a Trick Room Pokemon in the back. Like you could run, I don't know, all out offense, Regidrago, and Zacian out the gate. You can like Terrorization to Terra Ground, which is what people are using right now. You use Terra Ground, Terra Blast, or you have Behemoth Blade, Play Rough, or you just have Terra Dragon, Dragon Energy on your Regidrago. Why not? Fuck it, we ball. And then in the back you have like a Trick Room set of Calyrex Ice and Indeedee or something to set it up. I think that's definitely something you can make an argument for. I'm not quite sure though. Zamazenta. This is base form Zamazenta, but it still goes into biggest winners because Zamazenta does so much better as a support Pokemon, and giving it the item that isn't the shield. You normally give it a seed, and you lose like Rillaboom and Zamazenta, and you can do like Fake Out and Iron Defense, and then you're +3, and you threaten anything weak to fighting with a one-shot immediately, and you're the support Pokemon in that case, because you can U-turn Rillaboom out and bring in something actually powerful, like your own Calyrex Shadow. And if you think, oh, what if they have a Calyrex Shadow that's like Choice Scarf? Wide Guard. Zamazenta is an insane support Pokemon. It's going to be such a big boost to it, both Crown Form or not. And I may as well talk about Crown Form while I'm here, because that's probably going to be not as much of an improvement, but it's right next to it. So I'm just going to put them both together. Honestly, I think they're both going to be better than Kyogre and Groudon. Like, just right next to them. You're going to see so much Zamazenta usage that it's going to make anything that is weak to fighting terrified. That's another reason, actually, why Dialga is going to be worse than I think. I'm actually going to have to put Dialga down a bit, thinking about it. Just because Zamazenta's going to kill that thing, man. But yeah, there's not much more I can say. You have Stab Fighting, you have Stab Steel, both of which are good. You can Heavy Slam Fluttermanes if you really want to. You could run that with maybe... Oh, I know people are already doing. They're running this with Electric Seed with Miraidon, and they're just going, okay, now you can't Dazzling Gleam me. You have to either Moonblast my Miraidon, or you have to deal with a Heavy Slam coming in. And while you're not technically a Steel type, you could Terra Steel and probably one-shot, which would just go insane. I don't think you have Behemoth Bash when you're not Crown Form, though, so that's going to be a little more unfortunate. But you could just use Crown Form if you really want that. Crown Form next to Miraidon, or next to Calyrex Shadow, next to Calyrex Ice. You could even run it on something like a... I wouldn't recommend running it on a Sun team, because then it's going to get hit with fire moves often. But you can run it on a Rain team, and it'd do really well in my opinion. I think Zamazenta is by far the biggest winner because it's just so versatile as a support Pokemon, and now it can be a support Pokemon while also dealing offense. This is potentially world's winning in my opinion, and I think you're going to have to learn how to play against Zamazenta if you want to win anything these days. Eternatus. Eternatus is very interesting because Eternatus didn't get much play from what I saw, but then people started using it. And I remember someone made Day 2 on one of the early originals this year. I think they were using a Choice Spec set with Dynamax Cannon and like Terra Fire something and Sludge Wave. And it was really interesting to watch because I think Eternatus only has Pressure as an ability. It doesn't have anything interesting. Yeah, it has Pressure. I thought it had Levitate for a second. It has a 145 base special attack. Poison as a typing isn't incredible. It's not very good offensively, but it does hit some niches that you might want it to. Like it'll probably be really good into Rillaboom because it's a poison dragon type, so it double resists grass. And the psychic weaknesses that it has aren't going to be very common, but it still is weak to ground, it's weak to ice, it's weak to dragon. It has some weaknesses, and I don't really think I can call it a solid improvement because Eternatus doesn't work too well as a support Pokemon. You often want it to be like a Choice Spec set doing damage. And while it can now do like Choice Spec Sludge Wave into a Telepathy Giratina, a Telepathy Palkia, it doesn't matter with Dialga because it's a Steel type. You could run it with a Oh, actually, you could run it with a Zacian. Wait, hold up. You could run it with a Zacian. Zacian's a Steel Fairy type. You have Steel Fairy, Poison Dragon. Those are really good coverage of each other's moves. I think in general that could be a really good set, but I think it's still to question how good Zacian itself is. But then you can't gamble on Eternatus only being good with Zacian. You could use it with Zamazenta too, because Zamazenta is really good with everyone. I think Eternatus is on the cusp of solid improvement and better than before. And I kind of want to give it the edge and give it solid improvement. I think I was wrong. Koraidon is interesting because I think Koraidon is still really good. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna give Koraidon literally its own tier that just says not much of an improvement, but still really good. That's all I'm gonna call this tier because I don't really know how to talk much about Koraidon. It's a really good single restricted Pokemon. It's gonna do okay in the double restricted. I don't think it's gonna improve it much. But I think it's still gonna be really good. Because it's Koraidon. I mean, Wolf just won EUIC with it, and it was incredible. That set was insane, by the way. It's going to work better on Sun teams. Sun teams are going to be going against Rain teams a lot, but they're also going to be going against other Sun teams. You have the fighting type. Oh. Actually. You know what? Let's not overcomplicate things. I'm just going to put Koraidon right there. I think Koraidon is still winning. Let's be real. Because Koraidon is going to be going up against... Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Koraidon is a winner. And you want to know why? Koraidon's offensive typing is fighting. Oftentimes you want to sacrifice your dragon moves. You want to use something like Close Combat, Flare Blitz, Flame Charge. That's the moves that you use. Flame Charge to boost your speed, Flare Blitz and Close Combat for damage. Now you have two super effective types of moves against Zamazenta. You can hit Rillaboom, you can hit Calyrex Ice, which is going to be seen more commonly. You can do better on Sun teams or against Sun teams. You can hit pretty much any Steel type around here, any... I don't know. There are no Grass type legendaries, so I can't say Grass types. But your typing is going to be very offensive and do very well. You can also make up for your quad weakness to Fairy by having different restricted Pokemon that can resist Fairy. You could have something like a Zamazenta with Wide Guard, stop you from getting Dazzling Gleam, because that was usually a threat from Fluttermane. I do think Koraidon is winning. I think I was wrong originally. So Lunala, I'm kidding. I love Terrapagos. I fucking love Terrapagos. It is like my favorite restricted by far. It's a normal type. It's gonna be seeing more of these. It's gonna be seeing more of these. It's gonna be seeing more of these. But I mean, I already said, but this is the worst of all. Because it's gonna be dealing with body presses out the wazoo. The time to kill is gonna get so much lower. Everything's gonna be so much faster. People are gonna be dying left and right with the damage that's going out. Poor Terry can't keep up with that. Terra Shell isn't gonna be that good of ability if you can't recover it immediately. You aren't gonna be able to set up as many calm mines. I don't think Terry is worse than these Pokemon, but I think Terry is better than these Pokemon, but this is a huge blow to Terry's success. And I feel so sad about it because I love using Terry. I use it with Sinister all the time. Substitute sets will still exist, choice spec sets will definitely exist, but I do think it works a lot better in a single restricted format. Especially since Zamazenta is going to be everywhere now with how good of a support Pokemon it is. Another biggest winner. Boom, Lunala. This is another support Pokemon through and through. Wide Guard, Power Herb, Moongeist Beam, Protect. Maybe you run it with Expanding Force if you want to be insane for some reason. You could run it in the back with a Calyrex Ice Set. You can run it in a Tail Room. You do not want to be using it with Calyrex Shadow because they have the same typing, but you can use it in a Tail Room set with Miraidon. You can use it with Zamazenta if you want double Wide Guard for some reason. That would be funny. Or you can just use it in a hard trick room with Calyrex Ice. I think Lunala is very versatile. We've seen what it can do recently when it won that regional. And overall, Lunala's got a lot to bring, and I think it's proven itself to do really well. Solgaleo's an interesting one. The first thing I thought when I was thinking about Regulation I was if Solgaleo could make a return. Because I feel like it has a chance. Solgaleo is not a good Pokemon. Because it's a Steel Psychic type, which is okay. It's not great defensive typing. It's weak to Fire, which is common. It's weak to Dark, which is common. So it's weak to both Incineroar types. It's weak to Ground. It's weak to Ghost. It's it's just pathetic. It's meant to be good defensive typing, but it's not. It's not even good offensive typing. But it does have a Full Metal Body, which is its ability, which means it can't get hit by Intimidate, which means you can't lower its attack. Since it's one of the in this case it's one of the few Pokemon that can run Choice Band without having to worry about Intimidate. Back in Regulation H, the only Pokemon you would really see running Choice Band is Dragapult, and these days the only Pokemon you see running Choice Band is Urshifu, Urshifu Dark, Urshifu Wicked Blow, because it ignores Intimidate. When it hits you, it crits. It ignores the Intimidate. And Full Metal Body and Clear Body, in the case of Dragapult, they both ignore it because you can't drop the stats. So I think you could definitely see some potential. Maybe you have like a Smeargle team with Wide Guard, Decorate, Smeargle. You run a Solgaleo Choice Band for like a really fast damage output type thing. Or you run it on a Rain team maybe to take out enemy Fluttermans, because Flutterman is really bulky specially. You use it as a physical threat. I think it will fill a niche. But because Solgaleo was literally non-existent before this, I think it's going to be better. And Duskmane is not going to be that good. Duskmane is going to be like here. Because the reason is, Duskmane has a different ability, so you can't really run Choice Band the same way. It takes less damage than super effective moves, which is fine, but it's not very good. And you're just not really going to want to be using it. It's slower, it's better in Trick Room, but if you want it to be a physical threat against like very bulky special attackers, you want to use it to kill select Pokemon, you're gonna want Solgaleo. And I think Solgaleo has a better attack stat anyway. Let me check. Solgaleo has 137. Oh no, it's not done. Duskmane is 157. So Duskmane does have a higher attack stat, but Prism Armor is just not that good of an ability. That's really the only difference between them. It's also slower, and you just... I don't know, man. I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with it. Yeah, I think Solgaleo could have an improvement. Wait, is it bulkier as well? Never mind. One sec. Solgaleo, 137, 107, 89, 97. Duskmane. Oh, it is a lot bulkier, actually. It's bulkier, but it is a decent bit slower. I really don't think you're going to want to run it. I think it will be an improvement, but it won't be much of an improvement. I still think I won't see much usage. I still think it's going to have a lot of things threatening it, and you just won't want to use it in general. And then there's Duskmane, Duskwing, sorry, Dawnwings. Dawnwings is okay. It's worse Lunala. It's a Lunala that is slower, is bulkier, and has a worse ability. And that is really the problem, because Lunala has a really good ability, and it works very well in Trick Room, and it has Wyguard. But I really don't have much to say about it. I think Duskmane won't see much usage. I like it shiny. It's really cool shiny, but no. I think ultimately this is the fate of Regulation I. I think that you'll see these big three. These are just really good Pokemon on their own. They work well with the Pokemon. They work incredibly into the Pokemon. They will fit any scenario in front of them. They will always be there. And then you have your three main support Pokemon. These are going to be seen everywhere. These are going to be helping the others to stay alive, helping them to deal damage, covering their checks, and just overall being, the underdog. They're doing their job. They're not the core part of the team, but they're going to fit in and they're going to, clock in, do their work. They're very respectable. Koraidon is still going to be a great offensive threat. It's still going to work into a ton of different comps. Same with Kyogre and Groudon. These are still going to be the offensive menaces they've been. There's still going to be sets built around them to support and to be your offense. Hell, we might see a support Miraidon set at some point. I don't know. Maybe it's trying to counter Amoonguss. Which is a bit interesting, actually, because you could run Miraidon with Calyrex Ice to put Calyrex Ice on electric terrain, because then it can't get slept by Amoonguss, because Amoonguss is, I believe, faster in Trick Room than Calyrex Ice, which is something that you have to usually watch out for. And then you see the Pokemon that 5 people are rooting for. You've got the Ho-Oh. I know people who are really big Ho-Oh stands. They want Ho-Oh to be good, and I think we'll get in there. Ho-Oh is going to have its own niche. It's going to be an okay Tailwind setter. It's going to have Regenerator. It's going to do some fire damage, some flying damage. It's going to fit in there. It's going to do its part. And then it's going to disappear by the time Worlds rolls around. Zacian, there's still some Zacian believers. Power to them. I think Zacian's really fun. I actually ran a set recently where I used Medicham to skill swap Pure Power onto Zacian. And I thought it was really funny because basically, Zacian comes in, it procs Intrepid Sword, so it gets the attack boost. And then you swap Pure Power, so it doubles Zacian's attack stat. So it's doubled attack stat with the +1 power boost, the attack boost. And then Intrepid Sword goes on to Medicham, and then Medicham gets the attack boost, and you can start dealing extreme damage with both of them. This team has a 100% win rate. Maybe I'm just crazy. Palkia is going to be back. It's going to be working on rain teams. It's going to do some water damage. It's going to do its part. You know what I mean? It might work in Trick Room. Might just do some, in general stuff. Because Palkia, Kyogre is a decent team comp. I've seen it used before. Reshiram. I'm surprised it's this high too. But I think Reshiram has a huge improvement. I don't think it's honestly, I don't even think it's as good as some of these Pokemon, but it's just that big of an improvement. Okay, maybe I'll have to put it down, actually. I think Zacian goes here. Not Zacian, Reshiram. Dialga. Dialga is going to be great in Trick Room comps. It's going to have great bulky defensive typing. It's just not going to do too well into the fighting types of the meta. And I think in general, it's going to struggle. It's going to have struggles, but people are going to find their way to work around these struggles. Eshiro's running around, Zamazenta's running around. You've got a lot of fighting type moves. You've got Landorus everywhere. But I think Dialga can power through it. It's the god of time, after all. Eternatus has been on the rise for a while. Maybe it's its time. There's probably some insane person out there who's going to try and win regional with a power to you. I will root for you anytime I see you on stream. The people using the underdog restricteds are my favorite type of people. The Zacian players, the Eternatus players. I've not seen a single Ho-Oh player, the Lunala player. That's why I loved watching that regional where they won. I forgot what the name was. Reshiram is stupid, but I think it has a genuinely great support moveset, and it could go places. it is a really good improvement to base Reshiram. I think Solgaleo will work good as a physically offensive threat. You bring it in, you're just going to kill one thing, die, but you've saved your team, you've let your team get a turn, and now you can start to get your picks. And then these, I don't have much to say about them. They'll be slightly better, but I don't think they're going to fit too well into the matchmaking. I think in general, we're just not going to be seeing too much of them. We'll probably see some Palkia Origin form. We might see some Dawnwings. We'll probably see some Rayquaza. Maybe we'll see some insane person using this. One person will use this because it's funny. I'm sorry, Terapagos. I love you. I really do. But you're going to be doing so much worse with normal type damage and fighting types running everywhere. I feel so bad. And I do not care about any of these Pokemon. They're awful. Stop using them, please. It's not fun for you, and it's especially not fun for your opponents. It's really just Hydrogen Baby vs. Coughing Bomb. But yeah, that's my list. I talk a lot about Pokemon, and this is my first Pokemon video, but I was hoping that people like this kind of stuff. I know a lot of my content's been about Marvel Rivals recently, but that's mostly just like the hyperfixation I've got right now. I've been playing a lot of it. I'm actually working on a tank guide right now, which is my biggest video yet, so stay tuned for that. If you like the video, please subscribe. I don't like asking this, but I would appreciate it. Goodbye.